ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरून् श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान् सगना ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So we'll start from where we left. That is 17th shloka of the fourth chapter of second canto. And what's going on now is the glorification of the Lord by Shukadev Goswami. This is in response to Maharaj Parikshit's second question or second phase of questions. So here we see that before answering the question, so Shukadev Goswami is meditating on the Supreme Lord, and those things are composed in the form of shlokas, and it's really very wonderful. So here we see this shloka. Yesterday we read the Sanskrit, but again we will do that. Tapasvino dana parayashasvino manasvino mantra vidassu mangalah shemam na vindati vinaya darpanam tasmai subhatra shavase namo namaha. So in this we saw that how this tapasvi, great people who are very good in tapasya, tapasvino, dana paraya shashvino. So those people who are very good in giving dana, or those people who are having good name and fame. Manasvino, mantra vida sumangala. So those people who can control their mind, are very expert in chanting mantras and all these things. But if all these things are without Vina yadarpanam, no, without offering to the Supreme Lord, all these things doesn't produce its desired result. No shemam na vindati vinaya darpanam. So such a personality who makes the auspiciousness into auspiciousness. So that personality I offer my obeisances to. No, all the auspicious activities, if there is no presence of the Supreme Lord, then it becomes inauspicious. Actually, the activity in itself is not auspicious. It is the presence of the Lord in the activity makes the whole activity auspicious, right? So here that is the meaning of the shloka. Okay. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the all auspicious Lord Krishna again and again. Namo Namaha means like no, again and again. Because the great learned sages, the great performers of charity, the great workers of distinction, the great philosophers and mystics, the great chanters of Vedic hymns, and the great followers of Vedic principles cannot achieve any fruitful result without dedicating of such great qualities to the service of the Lord. So all the people who are great in any of the fields, it is their greatness is because of the Lord's blessings or Lord's presence in their particular activity. Otherwise, there is no greatness of anybody, no of any stature. Purport: advancement of learning, a charitable disposition, political, social, or religious leadership of human society, philosophical speculation, the practice of yoga system, expertise in Vedic rituals, and all similar high qualities in man serve one in the attainment of perfection only when they are employed in the service of the Lord. Right? So whatever good qualities are there, if it is applied in the service of the Lord, then it has some meaning. Otherwise, it doesn't have a meaning. Without such doubting, all such qualities become source of trouble for people in general. Right? So if we have anything in our hand, so that's God's property, and it should be used in God's service. And if it is not, then it only brings about trouble. Everything can be utilized either for one's own sense gratification or in the service of one another than oneself, there are two kinds of self-interest also, namely personal selfishness and extended selfishness. But there is no qualitative difference between personal and extended selfishness. Theft for personal interest or for the family interest is of the same quality, namely criminal. A thief pleading not guilty because of committing the theft not for personal interest but for the interest of society or country has never been excused by the established law of any country. People in general have no knowledge that the self-interest of a living being people in general have no knowledge that self-interest of a living being attains perfection only when such an interest coincides with the interest of the Lord. For example, what is the interest of maintaining body and soul together? One earns money for maintenance of the body, personal or social, but unless there is God consciousness, unless the body is being properly maintained to realize one's relation with God, all good efforts to maintain body and soul together are similar to the attempts of an animal to maintain body and soul together. The purpose of maintaining the human body is different from that of the animals. Similarly, advancement of learning, economic development, philosophical research, study in Vedic literatures, or even the execution of pious activities like charity, opening of hospitals, and the distribution of food grains should be done in relation with the Lord. The aim of all such acts and endeavors must be the pleasure of the Lord and not for the satisfaction of any ordinary entity, individual or collective. Samsiddhir Haritoshanam. So, Dharma Svanishtuta Pumsha Vishakshena Kathashriya Notpadaye Detiratim Shramaya Vahikelam. No, not that sloka. This is a different sloka, Samsiddhir Haritoshanam. Atapumbir Vijashreshta Varanashrama Vibhagasha Swanishtutisha Dharmasya Samsiddhir Haritoshanam. Yeah. So everything that, all the different activities that we are doing, it should be meant for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. In Bhagavad Gita 9:27, the same principle is confirmed, where it is said that whatever we may give in charity or whatever we may observe in austerity must be given over to the Lord or to be done on his account only. Expert leaders of godless civilization cannot bring about a fruitive result in all their different attempts at educational advancement or economic development unless they are God conscious. And to become God conscious, one has to hear about the all auspicious Lord as he is described in the literatures like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is a very important principle is mentioned here. So Prabhupada is mentioning that either a thief, he steals things for his personal interest, or he steals for the greater interest or for some larger interest like country or society and things like that. Still a person is called as a thief only. And still Prabhupada is mentioning no government in the world have ever excused a thief. Right? So in the same way, everything that exists is Lord's property, and the Lord's property, if it is not used according to the instructions by the Lord, then immediately it becomes an act of thievery. Right? So it is, we become a thief. And whether we may say like, I am not interested in enjoying this. No, I just took your property for the benefit of people. Your children only I am helping. Like that he may argue with the God. But then God will say, okay, you are taking my property to help my children, but have you consulted with me what is good for my children? So that is a very important thing. So in this way, like we can see that, this is a very, very important principle, that every activity should be meant for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. If not for pleasure of the Supreme Lord, then it becomes a problem actually. So the modern leaders, they are trying to achieve happiness and satisfaction of people in general by the way of economic development and by the way of advanced knowledge and things like that. Actually, they are not fit to be called as knowledge. According to the Vedic terms, they are fit to be called as ajnana, or ignorance. All that has been going on in terms of advancement of knowledge is basically advancement of ignorance. That's all. Because ignorance means increasing our bodily consciousness. Knowledge means increasing our spiritual consciousness. Coming closer to who we are is knowledge. and going away from who we are is ignorance. No, that's very simple definition. So that's what the scriptures, wherever the scriptures use the word knowledge, they are looking at this thing. No, right now we are soul, but we are not able to perceive ourselves as soul. If we are coming closer to that, then we are in knowledge. Otherwise, we are in ignorance only. So that's very, very clear concept, right? So in this way, we can see that people should be encouraged to study about Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and things like that. So sometimes people ask that, okay, people are struggling in this world, and you're telling that, just study Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and things like that. By this, what benefit will the people get? So one answer that we can give, very, very nice answer we can give, is that if you are put in a dark room, all of you have experience, like in the night, you switch off all the lights and then you take rest and things like that. Sometimes when you get up and you don't know, you don't know where what is. Generally in your home, but then if you are in a new place, you don't know where what is there, and you are a little hesitant in keeping your feet ahead and things like that. And that to imagine if you are there in an unknown place and jungle kind of an environment and things like that, and all, if there is darkness, then we freak out. That time it is very, very difficult for us to be there. And all the tension that is there in the person's mind is because he doesn't know what is there ahead of him, what is there, what will come to him, either stone or a thorn or even a ghost or whatever it is. He's afraid about so many permutation and combinations of possibilities which he cannot see, right? So now bringing in light over there, it's a great help to the person who's struggling over there. He may be, he may have put his feet on a thorn, he may be hurt by a stone and things like that. Yes, definitely the first aid over there is very important. But then if we show him light, he will be more careful. He will be proper in his further steps that he is taking, right? So that way, Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam is going to shed light into the ignorance of the people. And if light is there, they themselves also can take care of themselves, and further they will be protected from committing further mistakes, right? So this is a great help. That is why it is mentioned, Vidya Dan, or Vidya means Vidya Bhagavatavadi. Vidya means Bhagavatam, Vidya means Bhagavad Gita. So Vidya Dan is very, very important, where knowledge is given to somebody wherein they are able to perceive themselves as they are. They are able to perceive themselves more clearly. That is bringing them closer to knowledge and bringing them closer to who they are. And that is knowledge, and not the thing, the scientific advancement and all the modern education and things like that. It's only increasing our bodily consciousness. It is only putting us into more darkness. More and more darkness. It is making sure that we are not going to come out of darkness. And result of the modern education is people are questioning, what is God, what is spirituality, all these things are sentimental and things like that. Actually speaking, science is sentimental. This spirituality is not sentimental. Spirituality is reality, right? So people believe in Big Bang theory and stuff like that. It's all complete sentimental. There is no proof. There is no proof and there is no substantiation on that. It's such a phenomenal, such a huge leap of faith that they have to keep on that. But then, so many wonderful things are there in this world. They will not think of an intelligent creator for this. It's all some dull matter has created all these things. So this is what is the gross sentimentalism, or whatever you may call. That is all attributable to the science, not to the spirituality. Spirituality is perfect science. Spirituality is perfect science. So, okay, so let's continue. Text 18. Kirata Hunandra Pulinda Pulkasha Abhira Sumba Yavana Kashadaya Yenye Chapapa Yadapashraya Shraya Shuddhanti Tasmai Prabha Vishnave Namaha. Okay, it's an amazing sloka. Kirata, Huna, Andhra, Pulinda, Pulkasha, Abhira, Shumba, Yavana, members of Kasha race and even others addicted to sinful acts can be purified by taking shelter of devotees of the Lord due to his being the supreme power. I beg to offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Right? So these are all some kind of sinful race of people actually, and all these sins, whatever may be, before this tapasvino mantra yasasvino, we saw that all the auspicious things becomes auspicious only because of the presence of the Lord. And in this sloka, we are seeing all sort of sinful people, whatever may be their position, all sort of sinful people, if they come in touch with the Lord, immediately they become purified, right? So that is the beauty of the Lord, because all the auspiciousness things gets its auspiciousness because of presence of Lord. Even inauspicious things, if it comes in touch with the Lord, it becomes auspicious. So it is only the Lord who is auspicious and who makes everything else auspicious, right? So that's the whole point of these two shlokas, coming in consecutive, consecutive way. So now Prabhupada is going to explain about all these sinful races and where they are found and things like that. Kirata, a province of old Bharatavarsha mentioned in the Bhishma Parva of Mahabharata. Generally, the Kiratas are known as the Aborigine tribes of India, and in modern days, the Santal Parghans in Bihar and Chota Nagpur might comprise the old province of Kirata. Huna, the area of East Germany and part of Russia, is known as the province of Hunas. Accordingly, sometimes a kind of hill tribe is known as Hunas. And Andhra, a province in southern India, mentioned in Bhishma Parva of Mahabharata, it is still extant under the same name. Pulinda, it is mentioned in the Mahabharata, Adi Parva 174:38, via the inhabitants, that is the inhabitants of the province of the name Pulinda. The country was conquered by Bhimasena and Sahadev. The Greeks are known as Pulindas, and it is mentioned in the Vana Parva of Mahabharata, the non-Vedic race of this part of world would rule over the world. So this is what the Greeks and Turks and Greeks and these people, like basically the Muslim race actually. The Pulinda province was also one of the province of Bharata, and the inhabitants were classified amongst the Kshatriya kings. But later on, due to their giving up Brahminical culture, they were mentioned as Mlechas, just as those who are not followers of the Islamic culture are known as Kafirs, and those who are not followers of Christians culture are called heathens. In the same way, like Mlechas means like non-Vedic people. Abira, the name also appears in the Mahabharata, both in the Sabha Parva and Bhishma Parva. It is mentioned that this province was situated on the river Saraswati in Sindh. The modern Sindh province formerly expanded on the other side of the Arabian Sea, and all inhabitants of that province were known as Abiras. They were under the dominion of Maharaj Yudhishthira, and according to the statement of Markandeya, the Mlechas of this part of the world would rule over Bharata. And that had happened like this one, Muslim rule was there in India. Later on, this proved to be true, as in the case of Pulindas. On behalf of the Pulindas, Alexander the Great conquered India, and on the behalf of Abiras, Muhammad Ghori conquered India. These Abiras were also formerly Kshatriyas within the Brahminical culture, but they gave up the connection. The Kshatriyas who were afraid of Parashuram and had hidden themselves in the Caucasian hilly regions later on became the Abiras, and the place they inhabited was known as Abira Desha. So this is one of the thing. If we see all this Islamic religion, and other religion, they have this strong this one that whatever it is, like they are being told that you follow your Islamic religion and go and plunder India. That's kind of a indirect or direct, whatever it is for them. Why? Because from India, like Parashuram actually, from this tract of land, he goes and subdues them very, very badly. And then for them, it's all their life's goal is to come and plunder India. So that's why again and again so many different rulers came to plunder India, and they did so much of atrocious things, which we cannot even speak actually. So much atrocious things they have did to this one. It is all because of this thing, it's an eternal enmity that is there between them. It dates back to thousands of years actually. And Shumbas and Kankas, the inhabitants of Kanka province of old Bharata mentioned in the Mahabharata. And Yavanas was the name of one of the sons of Maharaj Yayati, who was given the part of the world known as the Turkey to rule. Therefore, the Turks are Yavanas. due to being descendants of Maharaj Yavana. The Yavanas were therefore Kshatriyas, and later on, by giving up the Brahminical culture, they became Mlecha Yavanas. Descriptions of the Yavanas are in Mahabharata, Adi Parva 85:34. Another prince called Turvasu was known as Yavana, and his country was conquered by Sahadev, one of the Pandavas. The western Yavana joined with Duryodhana in the battle of Kurukshetra under the pressure of Karna. It was also foretold that these Yavanas would conquer India, and it proved to be true. Right? Kasha, the inhabitants of Kasha Desha are mentioned in Mahabharata Drona Parva. Those who have a stunted growth in hair and the upper lip are generally hair on the upper lip are called Kashas. As such, the Kashas are Mongolians, the Chinese, and others who are so designated. The above mentioned historical names are different nations of the world. Even those who are constantly engaged in sinful acts are all corrigible to the standard of perfect human beings. What is this? Corrigible. Corrigible means capable of being corrected, rectified, or reformed. Okay, so they can all be corrected and rectified to the standard of perfect human beings if they take shelter of the devotee of the Lord. Jesus Christ and Muhammad, two powerful devotees of Lord, have done tremendous service on behalf of the Lord on the surface of the globe. And from the version of Srila Shukadeva Goswami, it appears that instead of running a godless civilization in the present context of the world situation, if the leadership of the world affairs is entrusted to the devotees of the Lord, for which a worldwide organization under the name and style of International Society for Krishna Consciousness has already been started, then by the grace of the Almighty Lord, there can be a thorough change of heart in human beings all over the world, because the devotees of the Lord are able authorities to effect such a change by purifying the dust-worn minds of people in general. The politicians of the world may remain in their respective positions because the pure devotees of Lord are not interested in political leadership or diplomatic implications. The devotees are interested only in seeing that the people in general are not misguided by political propaganda, and that the valuable life of a human being is not spoiled in following a type of civilization which is ultimately doomed. If the politicians, therefore, would be guided by the good counsel of the devotees, then certainly there would be a great change in the world situation by the purifying propaganda of the devotees, as shown by Lord Chaitanya. As Shukadeva Goswami began his prayers by discussing the word Yat Kirtanam, so also Lord Chaitanya recommended that simply by glorifying the Lord's holy name, a tremendous change of heart can take place, by which the complete misunderstanding between the human nations created by politicians can at once be extinguished. And after the extinction of the fire of misunderstanding, other profits will follow. The destination is to go back home, back to Godhead, as we have several times discussed in these pages. According to the cult of devotion, generally known as the Vaishnava cult, there is no bar against anyone's advancement in the matter of God realization. A Vaishnava is powerful enough to turn into a Vaishnava, even Kirata, etc. All the list of names that we studied. As above mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita 9:32, it is said that the Lord, it is said by the Lord that there is no bar to becoming devotee of the Lord, even for those who are low born, women, Shudras, or Vaishyas, whoever it is. And by becoming a devotee, everyone is eligible to return home back to Godhead. The only qualification is that one takes shelter of pure devotee of the Lord who has thorough knowledge in the transcendental science of Krishna, that is Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Anyone from any part of the world who becomes well conversant in the science of Krishna becomes a pure devotee and a spiritual master for the general mass of people, and may reclaim them by purification of heart. Though a person be even the most sinful man, he can at once be purified by the systematic contact with a pure Vaishnava. A Vaishnava, therefore, can accept a bona fide disciple from any part of the world without any consideration of caste and creed, and promote him by the regulative principle to the status of a pure Vaishnava. who is transcendental to Brahminical culture. The system of caste or Varnashram Dharma is no longer regular even amongst the so-called followers of the system, nor is it now possible to re-establish the institutional functions in the present context of social, political, and economic revolution. Without any reference to the particular custom of a country, one can be accepted to the Vaishnava cult spiritually, and there is no hindrance in the transcendental process. So, by the order of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the cult of Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita can be preached all over the world, reclaiming all persons willing to accept the transcendental cult. Such cultural propaganda by the devotees will certainly be accepted by all persons who are reasonable and inquisitive, without any particular bias for the custom of the country. The Vaishnava never accepts another Vaishnava on the basis of birthright, just as he never thinks of the deity of the Lord in the temple as an idol. So whatever form the murti may be formed, but still it is Archa Vigraha, Archa Avatar for us. In the same way, there is nice, this one is there. Drishtair Swabhava Janiter Vapushashcha Dosher Na Prakrutatvam Iga Bhakta Janasya Pashe Ganga Basham Na Kalu Budbud Fena Pankar Brahma Dravatvam Apagachati Nira Dharma. So that means Drishtair Swabhava Janiter. We should not see, this is an American, this is a Chinese, this is so and so. He was eating meat and all these things before. How can he become a Vaishnava? We should not be like that. Drishtair Swabhava Janiter Vapushashya Dosher. The dosha of the Vapu, the dosha of the body should not be seen. But then what has to be seen? The spiritual quality. Spiritual person, the spiritual quality has to be seen, and his bodily defects should not be seen. Just like it is mentioned, Ganga Ambasham, the water of Ganges, Ganga Ambasham, na kalu budbuta fena pankar. So it may have this one budbuda, like bubbles or fena and panka and things like that. So foam and dust particles and things like that. But then Ganga Ambasham, na kalu budbuta fena pankar, Brahma Dravatvam. It is the liquid form of the Supreme Lord. Brahma Drava. Brahma Dravatvam Apagachati Nira Dharma. So it doesn't get contaminated by this external manifestation of contaminations. This is a pure water because it is Ganges water which is emanating from the lotus feet of the Lord. So then, that's very powerful, right? In the same way, the devotees of the Lord, though they may have the bodily defects, but still those defects should be overlooked because he is a devotee of the Lord. He is dedicating his life towards the service of the Lord, right? So that is the meaning of this whole thing, right? So in this way, like Hirata, Hunandra, like all those people, because they are, if they come in touch with the Supreme Lord, immediately they rise to the position of a Vaishnava, and they should not be seen as a low-born people anymore. And to remove all doubts in this connection, Shukadeva Goswami has invoked the blessings of the Lord, who is all-powerful, Prabha Vishnave Namaha. As the all-powerful Lord accepts the humble service of his devotees in devotional service of the Archana, his form as the worshipable deity in the temple, similarly, the body of a pure Vaishnava changes transcendently at once when he gives himself up to the service of the Lord and is trained by a qualified Vaishnava. The injunction of Vaishnava regulation in this connection runs as follows. Arche Vishnu Shila, Arche Vishnu Shiladir, Gurushu Naramatir, Vaishnave Jati Buddhi, Shri Vishnur Namni, Shabda Samanya Buddhihi. So, this is the shloka that is mentioned. Arche Vishnu, Shila. So that means the Archa Vigraha of the Lord should not be seen as a stone, just a mere stone. And then Guru Shu Naramatir, Guru to be an ordinary living entity. And then Vaishnava Jati Buddhi. This Vaishnava belongs to this caste, this Vaishnava belongs to that caste. And he comes from a very low caste and things like that. So because he is surrendered to the Lord, immediately he becomes purified, Vaishnava Jati Buddhi. What happens? This, like further the shloka goes and then it says like Sha Pashandi. Pashandi means like he is a non-believer or an atheist. That's what it says actually. So one should not consider the deity of the Lord as one should not consider the deity of the Lord as worshipable in the temple to be an idol, just a stone or something like that. Or nor should one consider the authorized spiritual master an ordinary man, nor should one consider a pure Vaishnava to belong to a particular caste, etc. No, if they consider like that, then he becomes immediately Pashandi, no, atheist. The conclusion is that the Lord, being all powerful, can under any and every circumstance accept anyone from any part of the world, either personally or through his bona fide manifestation as the spiritual master. No, Lord Chaitanya accepted many devotees from communities other than the Varnashramites, and he himself declared to teachers that he does not belong to any caste or social order or of life, but that he is the eternal servant of the Lord, who maintains the damsels of Vrindavan, Lord Krishna. That is the way of self-realization. Right? So, Lord Chaitanya has sung this, had mentioned this, Gopi Bharator Padakamalayur Dasa Dasa Anudasa Naham Vipro Nacha Narapater Nabi Vaishyo Na Shudra. Like that, no, it goes, no, this is like Naham Vipro, I'm not a Brahmana, no, like Nabi, like Naham Vipro Nacha Narapater, no, Nabi Vaishya Na Shudra. Like, no, I'm not belonging to any caste or creed or any of the Varnashrama, this one. I am just a servant of the Lord. That is the identity, right? So that identity somebody takes, that, no, I am servant of the Lord. Immediately he comes above the Varna and Ashrama, and he becomes, glorified as a devotee of the Lord, right? So he becomes Vaishnava immediately. So Vaishnava is not this one like Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Those are all material classifications. Vaishnava means the one who has surrendered to Lord Vishnu. So he immediately becomes, whatever may be his previous qualification, he immediately becomes a Vaishnava. Okay, text 19. Sahesha Atmatmavatam Adishwaras Trahi Mayo Dharma Mayastapomaya Gatapyali Khair Ajashankaradibir Viraktiringo Bhagavan Prasidatham. He is the super soul and the supreme lord of all self-realized souls. He is the perfection of the Vedas, religious scriptures and austerities. He is worshipped by Lord Brahma and Shiva and all those who are transcendental to all pretensions, transcendental to all pretensions. Being so revered with awe and reverence, may that supreme absolute be pleased with me. So just a minute, I'll read it again. I couldn't able to follow. He is the super soul and the supreme lord of all self-realized souls. That's easy. He is the personification of the Vedas. That's also good. Religious scriptures and austerities. He is the personification of all this one's Vedas, scriptures and austerities. He is worshipped by Lord Brahma and Shiva and all those who are transcendental to all pretensions. He is like Satvatampati, he is worshipped by all people who are free from pretensions. Being so revered with awe and veneration, may that supreme absolute be pleased with me. Purport. The Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, although the Lord of all followers of different paths of self-realization, is knowable only by those who are above all pretensions. Dharma prochita kaitava atra paramo nirmatsaranam satam. No vedyam vastavam atra vastu sivadam tapatrayon molanam. So this comes, I think, the second or third shloka of the Bhagavatam, first canto, so first chapter. It's that's a very important, this one, this one, nirmat saranam satam. It's a very, very important thing. Those who are not envious, those who are not pretentious, they cannot understand who the Lord is. They cannot glorify the Lord properly. So if they are free from all pretensions, they're like not envious, or they are not devious, or they are not duplicitous and things like that. So then only they can actually glorify the Lord, right? So everyone is searching for eternal peace or eternal life, and with an aim to this destination, everyone is either studying the Vedic scriptures or other religious scriptures, or undergoing severe austerities as empiric philosophers, as mystic yogis, or as unalloyed devotees, etc. But the Supreme Lord is perfectly realized only by the devotees, because they are above all pretensions. Those who are on the path of self-realization are generally classified as karmis, jnanis, yogis, or devotees of the Lord. The karmis, who are much attracted by the fruitive activities of Vedic rituals, are called bhukti kami. Bhukti means material enjoyment. Bhukti kamis. And those who desire material enjoyment, or those who desire material enjoyment. The jnanis, who try to become one with the Supreme by the mental speculation, are called mukti kamis. So bhukti kami and mukti kami. Bhukti means material enjoyment, or mukti means, oh, I'm thoroughly frustrated with material enjoyment, I want to get liberation from this. No, both of them are not pointing towards devotional service. Devotional service means you put me in any difficulty, my Lord, I just simply want to serve you. That's devotional service. And no, mukti kami means no little bit problem, immediately, oh Lord, no, please take me out of this, please take me out of this. No, that's like mukti kami, right? So this is like both mukti and bhukti. That is very important thing to understand. So these two are very important, very major contaminations that can actually come into the bhakti. Like sometimes this contamination may come in the way that I am doing bhakti, what has Lord given to me? Immediately that gets to bhukti kami, like no material desires starts. And then mukti kami means, oh, I am in so much of trouble, like no, what is the use of worshipping this Lord? He is not even protecting me from the trouble. So that is mukti kami. So both of them, they can never relish devotional service at any point in time, right? So bhukti mukti spriha yavat pishachi hridi vartate tavat bhakti sukasyartam katam abhyudayo bhavet. No, in their heart never this sukha of bhakti will never come in their heart, because they are constantly desiring something. No, I want to enjoy this world, or I want to get rid of this problem. No, how will they enjoy bhakti? No, they will never enjoy bhakti, such people. The mystic yogis who practice different types of austerities for attainment of 8 kinds of material perfection and who ultimately meet the super soul, Paramatma, in trance are called Siddhikamis, or those who desire the perfection of becoming finer than the finest and becoming heavier than the heaviest, getting everything desired, having control over everyone, creating everything liked, etc. So this is like Anima, Lahima, no prapti, no vashita, and things like that. All these are siddhis, which a yogi gets, and all these are all these are the abilities of a powerful yogi. But if he has all these things, his mind will be distracted, and then because he's so powerful, how will he be able to take shelter of the Lord, saying that no, I don't have anything, my Lord, you are my master, no, please, you are my protector, you are my only shelter. He will never be able to utter these words because he is so powerful. He is endowed with so much of siddhis. That is also a bhiksha given by the Lord, but then he thinks it to be his own, and then he is actually cheated away by from taking the shelter of the Lord. So in this way, the powerful yogis, this is also another contamination. So we may not have these kind of siddhis, anima, lagima, and things like that, but we may have the siddhis like money, name and fame, bodily strength and power and things like that. So even these things doesn't allow a person to surrender to the Lord. This will contamination. So these things, desire for enjoying material things and desire for getting out of trouble, or being so proud of one's own possessions, with all these various things, these are all deep rooted problems, and this will actually deviate a person from bhakti yoga. And these are the pitfalls a bhakti yogi has to be very, very careful about. Once he takes shelter of the Lord, once he actually feels that comfort and bliss of the shelter of the Lord, then immediately he will give up all these things. He just need to, in the practicing stage, we may not be able to feel that shelter, but then we should have the faith that the shelter of the Lord is so blissful and so amazing. If we just take that shelter of the Lord, then immediately, we are absolved from all these things, and we will then we will see that these things are very pale. These things are very tasteless, bitter. All these 3 things that we have seen: bhukti kami, like mukti kami and siddhi kami. All these people are like they are not very intelligent, right? But the devotees of the Lord do not want anything like this for self-satisfaction. They want only to serve the Lord because the Lord is great. And as living entities, they are eternally subordinate part and parcels of the Lord. This perfect realization of the self by the devotee helps him to become desireless, to desire nothing for personal self. And thus the devotees are called nishkami. What is that? Anyways, I'm not able to remember that. Without any desire, nishkami. Bhukti kami, I'm not sure. So in Chaitanya Charitamrita, one shloka comes, Sakale Ashanta, Krishna Bhakta Nishkama, Atayeva Shanta. I don't remember the first 2 things. Basically, it talks about the bhukti and mukti. No, people who are going behind that, no sakale ashanta, no, they are all ashanta. And then Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Atayeva Shanta. No, because the Krishna Bhakta, he is not having any material desires, he's always in peace. No, he doesn't have this problem of Ashanti. A living entity by his constitutional position cannot be void or void of all desires. So then what is the meaning of Nishkama? Kama means desires and Nishkama means like no desires. But then Prabhupada is immediately refuting that his own statement, saying that a living entity by constitutional position cannot be desireless. If he is desireless, then he is not a living entity. He's like no any wood or stone or something like that, right? So the Bhukti Kami, Mukti Kami and Siddhi Kami, all desiring something for personal satisfaction. But the Nishkami devotees of the Lord desire everything for the satisfaction of the Lord, right? So they are completely dependent on the orders of the Lord and are always ready to discharge their duty for the satisfaction of the Lord, right? In the beginning, Arjuna placed himself as one of those who desired self-satisfaction, for he desired not to fight in the battle of Kurukshetra, but to make him desireless, the Lord preached Bhagavad Gita, in which the ways of Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Hatha Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga were explained. Because Arjuna was without any pretension, he changed his decision and satisfied the Lord by agreeing to fight. Karishye vachanam tava. No, whatever you say, my Lord, no, I'm ready to do. Right? And thus became desireless. The example of Brahma and Lord Shiva is specifically cited here because Brahmaji, Lord Shiva, Srimati Lakshmi Devi, and the four Kumaras, Sanaka, Sanatana, Sanandana, and Sanat Kumar, are leaders of the four desireless Vaishnava Sampradayas. They are all freed from all pretensions. Srila Jiva Goswami interprets the word Gata Gali Khaihi as Projita Kaitava, or those who are free from all pretensions. The Dharma Projita Kaitavatra Paramo Nirmatsaranam Satam. Right? So that's the way, like Projita Kaitava. Or those who are freed from all pretensions, the unalloyed devotees only. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is mentioned Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Atayen Vashanta. Oh, okay, this is what I wanted to quote. Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami Sakali Ashanta. Right? Those who are after fruitive results for their pious activities, those who desire salvation and identity with the Supreme, and those who desire material perfections of mystic power are all restless because they want something for themselves. But the devotee is completely peaceful because he has no demand for himself and is always ready to serve the desire of the Lord. No, this is a very, very important thing. Sense gratification or desire for oneself means he has to be ashanta. He has to be like always no intention. No, that is a primary this one, right? And then if he has no desire for oneself and if he has only desire to serve the Lord, and it is like always a blissful position. The conclusion is therefore that the Lord is for everyone because no one can achieve the result of his respective desires without his sanction. But as stated by the Lord in Bhagavad Gita 8:9, all such results are awarded by him only. For the Lord is Adishwara, the original controller. No, Adi Ishwara is Adishwara of everyone. Namely, the Vedantas, the great Karmakandiyas, the religious leaders, the great performers of austerity, and all who are striving for spiritual advancement, whoever he may be. No, the Lord is the master of everyone, right? Adishwara. So, but ultimately, he is realized by the pretensionless devotee only. Therefore, special stress is given to the devotional service of the Lord by Srila Sukadeva Goswami. Now, in whatever way they may approach, if they are pretensionless, if they are like simple-hearted, they will be able to achieve the Lord. If they are complicated in their thought process, they will never be able to achieve the Lord. Right? So, next text 20. Shriyapatir Yatyapatir Prajapatir Diyampatir Lokapatir Darapatir Patir Gatis Chandaka Vrishni Satvatam Prasidatam Me Bhagavan Satam Patihi. So in this word, in this sloka, there's a lot of pati is coming like no Lord of Lord. He is the Lord of everybody, right? So may Lord Sri Krishna, who is the worshipable Lord of all devotees, the protector and glory of all kings like Andaka and Vrishni of the Yadu dynasty, the husband of all goddess of fortune, the director of all sacrifices, and therefore the leader of all living entities, the controller of all intelligence, the proprietor of all planets, spiritual and material, and the supreme incarnation on the earth, the supreme all in all, be merciful upon me, right? So he is the Lord of Lords. No, let him be merciful upon me. That's it. It's a very nice sloka to memorize and chant. No, oh Lord, like no, you are the Lord of everything. You are the Lord and Master of everything. Please be merciful upon me. Please be please your grace be upon me, like that, right? Shriya Patir, Yajna Patir, Prajapatir, Dhyam Patir, Loka Patir, Dara Patir, Patir Gatis Chandaka Vrishni Satvatam, Prasidatham Me Bhagavan Satam Patihi. No, very, very amazing sloka. Since Sukadeva Goswami is one of the prominent Gata Velikas who are freed from all misconceptions, he therefore expresses his own realized perception of Lord Sri Krishna as being the sum total of all perfection, the personality of Godhead. Everyone is seeking the favor of goddess of fortune. No, Lakshmi Devi. Everybody wants money. Everybody wants name and fame, right? So everybody is seeking the favor of goddess of fortune. No, here it says, but people do not know that Lord Sri Krishna is the beloved husband of goddess of fortune. In Brahma Samhita, it is said that the Lord in his transcendental abode, Goloka Vrindavan, is accustomed to herding the Surabhi cows, right? So what is that? Chintamani prakara sadmachu kalpa vriksha laksha vrateshu surabhi rabipalayantam Lakshmi sahasra sata sambrama sevya manam govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami, right? So here it says that he is herding so many Surabhi cows and is served by hundreds of thousands of goddess of fortune. Lakshmi Sahasra Sata, hundreds of thousands of goddess of fortune, Sevyamanam, they are serving him. All these goddesses of fortune are manifestation of his transcendental pleasure potency, Hladini Shakti, in his internal energy. And when the Lord manifested himself in the earth, he partially displayed the activities of his pleasure potency in his Rasa Leela just to attract the conditioned souls who are all after the phantasmagoria pleasure potency in degraded sex enjoyment, right? The pure devotees of Lord like Sukadeva Goswami, who was completely detached from the abominable sex life of the material world, discusses this act of Lord's pleasure potency, certainly not in relation to sex, but to relish the transcendental taste in the inconceivable, inconceivable to the mundaners who are after sex life. Sex life in the mundane world is the root cause of being conditioned by the shackles of illusion, and certainly Shukadeva Goswami was never interested in the sex life of mundane world, nor does the manifestation of the Lord's pleasure potency have any connection with such degraded things. Lord Chaitanya was a strict sannyasi, so much so that he did not allow any women to come near him, not even bow down or offer respect. He never even heard the prayers of Devadasis offered in the temple of Jagannath, because a sannyasi is forbidden to hear song sung by fair sex. Yet even in the rigid position of a sannyasi, he recommended the mode of worship preferred by the gopis of Vrindavan as the topmost loving service possible to be rendered to the Lord. And Srimati Radharani is the principal head of all such goddesses of fortune, and therefore she is the pleasure counterpart of Lord and is non-different from Krishna. Right? So this is a very important thing. Krishna's Rasa Leela pastimes are very, very in a low way. It has been spoken about by people who have no qualification to speak on Krishna, right? So we have to understand that people like Lord Chaitanya and all the great Sukadeva Goswami and people like that who have completely given up sex life, and they are praising the activities of the Lord. That means it doesn't have the contamination of the mundane, low grade, degraded, forms of any enjoyment. This is completely transcendental, and it is completely pure, and it is not a subject matter to be discussed amongst mundane people, right? First of all, they should understand how great Lord Vishnu is, how great Lord Krishna is. Then they can enter into the intimate pastimes of the Lord with his devotees. So this is not a subject matter to be discussed anywhere and everywhere. So this is thoroughly condemned by all the spiritualists, right? So they don't have the eligibility to speak about Lord Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, right? So in the Vedic rituals, there are recommendations for performing different types of sacrifice in order to achieve the greatest benefit in life. Such benedictions, as the result of performing great sacrifices, are after all favors given by goddess of fortune. And the Lord, being the husband or lover of goddess of fortune, is factually the Lord of all sacrifices also. He is the final enjoyer of all kinds of yajna, like Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasham. Therefore, Yajnapati is another name of the Lord, Vishnu. So any yajna can be performed. No, you perform Ganesha Homa, you perform any Homa. The Yajnapati, Vishnu, has to be invoked. If Vishnu is not invoked, no yajna can happen. No, that is this one. That is the ultimate. This one. Yajna means Vishnu. No, otherwise you cannot perform any yajna. Therefore, Yajnapati is another name of Vishnu. It is recommended by Bhagavad Gita that everything be done for Yajnapati. Yajnarthat karmanah anyatra lokoyam karma bandhana. So for otherwise, one's act will be cause of conditioning by the laws of material nature. Those who are not freed from all misconceptions, Vyalikam, perform sacrifice to please minor demigods, but the devotees of the Lord know very well that Lord Sri Krishna is the supreme enjoyer of all performances of sacrifice. Therefore, they perform the Sankirtan Yajna, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnoho, which is especially recommended in the age of Kali. In Kali Yuga, performance of other types of sacrifice is not feasible due to insufficient arrangements and expert priesthood. So no other kind of sacrifice is possible because, even if we do that, it is kind of some namesake. No, we are doing something, because the actual procedures to perform sacrifice, if we actually know, like, then we will all back out from that. So no, it is some imitation of the yajnas has been performed in the Kali Yuga. Actually, no, in Kali Yuga there is only one dharma that is possible: Kirtana Deva Krishnasya Mukta Sangha Param Rajet. Right. So that is the only thing. No, Kalautad Hari Kirtanad. Right. So Kaler Dosha Nide Rajan Astinu Ekhon Mahan Guna Kirtana Deva Krishnasya Mukta Sangha Param Rajet. That's the only process. No, the chanting the names of the Lord, and specifically the Krishna Nama. No, that is the only way for perfection in Kali Yuga. And all other things are like all other yajnas. No, they are not supported by the scriptures, right? So we cannot do them. We have information from Bhagavad Gita 3:10 to 11 that Brahma, after giving rebirth to the conditioned souls within the universe, instructed them to perform sacrifice and to lead a prosperous life. With such sacrificial performances, the conditioned souls will never be in difficulty in keeping body and soul together. Ultimately, they can purify their existence. They will find natural promotion into spiritual existence, the real identity of living being. A conditioned soul should never give up the practice of sacrifice, charity, and austerity in any circumstances. The aim of all such sacrifices is to please Yajnapati, the personality of Godhead. Therefore, the Lord is also Prajapati. He is the master of all the Praja, all the living entities. Praja means, it's a very interesting word. Praja means, in the modern terms, we call it as citizens. Citizens means we consider only the human beings as citizens, right? So, but then Praja, like Prabhupada explains in some lectures, I don't know Sanskrit, but then he explains this thing. He divides it as like this. Prakrishta Rupena Ja. Ja means like Janma. So, like anybody who is born in a particular tract of land becomes a praja of that land. It may be a virus, it may be a ant, or it may be whatever it may be. If it is taken birth in a particular tract of land, immediately it becomes a praja. So that is the understanding of this word. That is why Prabhupada always used to say, in the modern world, this United Nations and things like that, we all unite. We all talk about human beings, but then they send the poor animals to slaughterhouse. What is a kind of Prajapati? What is a kind of kings we have? So they are not properly taking charge of the entire kingdom and properly maintaining all the living entities, right? So, and punishing whoever is wrongdoers, and then maintaining those people who are righteous. And what is a point in killing the animals who doesn't protest? The cows you take the slaughterhouse, they just go with them, go with these people. And then such innocent people, such innocent living entities whose only business is to give milk for us, for our nourishment, and the dung for us, for antiseptic properties and things like that. and urine is also antiseptic. No, cow urine is also antiseptic. So such wonderful living entity, no, we send them to slaughterhouse. No, then what kind of kings these people are? Like, no, they are not proper Prajapatis. They just think citizens means only humans, right? According to Katha Upanishad, the one Lord is the leader of the innumerable living entities. The living entities are maintained by the Lord. Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadati Kaman. The Lord is therefore the supreme Bhuta Bhrita, the maintainer of all living beings. Living beings are proportionately endowed with intelligence in terms of their previous activities. All living beings are not equally endowed with the same quality of intelligence, because being such development of intelligence is the control of the Lord, as declared in the Bhagavad Gita 15:15. No, Mattas Pritirgyanam Pohanam cha. As Paramatma, Super Soul, the Lord is living in everyone's heart, and from him only does one's power of remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness, Mattas Pritirgyanam Pohanam cha, no, actually comes. And one person can sharply remember past activities by the grace of Lord, while others cannot. One is highly intelligent by the grace of Lord, one is a fool by the same control. Therefore, the Lord is Dhyampati. No, D means intelligence. No, Dhimahi. No, this word comes in this one in Vedic chants and all. Dhimahi means to apply one's intelligence. Let me put complete dhyana into this particular subject. No, that is Dhimahi. So Dhyampati means the Lord of the intelligence. No, he is the he's the Lord of intelligence. So here somebody may ask, okay, why is Lord giving different things to different people? It's okay, like, no, based on their past karma it is given. It doesn't matter how much you have got. What matters is whatever you have got, have you used it in Lord's service? That's very important. If Lord has given little, we should use that little in Lord's service. If the Lord has given more, we should use that more in Lord's service. Right? So that's the whole point. No. So like there is no argument of why the Lord has given little or more. So whatever he has given, have we used it in his service? That's an important point to be asked. If he has given little, so that's easy to use in the service of the Lord, right? So then we can attain perfection more quickly. That is why he is mentioned as Deenanatha. He's the master of the Deenas, or the poor people, wretched people, like that, right? So the conditioned souls strive to become lords of material world. Everyone is trying to lord it over the material nature by applying his highest degree of intelligence. This misuse of intelligence by conditioned soul is called madness. One's full intelligence should be applied to get free from the material clutches. Just now we saw the intelligence is a blessings of the Lord, and it should be used in the service of the Lord. And if it is used for our own purpose, if it is misused for any other thing, then it is called madness, pramada. But the conditioned soul, due to madness only, engages his full energy and intelligence in sense gratification. And to achieve this end of life, he willfully commits all sorts of misdeeds. The result is that instead of attaining an unconditional life of full freedom, the mad conditioned soul is entangled again and again in different types of bondage in material bodies. Everything we see in the material manifestation is but the creation of the Lord. Therefore, he is the real proprietor of everything in the universes. The conditioned soul can enjoy a fragment of this material creation under the control of the Lord, but not self-sufficiency. That is the instruction of Ishopanishad. Ishavasham idam sarvam yatkincham jagatyam jagat. Right? So one should be satisfied with things awarded by the Lord of the universe. It is out of madness only one tries to encroach upon others' share, right, of material possessions. The Lord of the universe, out of his causeless mercy upon conditioned souls, descends by his own energy, Atma Mayaya. Okay, just let us see. Okay, 2 more pages are there, we will finish. To re-establish the eternal relation with the conditioned souls with him. This like Lord actually, Atma Maya means his own personal energy of Maya. So that is the Yoga Maya. That is not the Maha Maya or the material nature. Atma Maya means the spiritual nature. Right? So when he is very, very merciful upon the conditioned souls, and the conditioned souls are eager to receive that mercy, so then he puts them under the shelter of the Atma Maya, and then they can actually progress in their spiritual life. He instructs all to surrender unto him instead of falsely claiming to be the enjoyers of a certain limit under his control. He wants, when he so descends, he proves how much greater is his ability to enjoy and he exhibits his power of enjoyment. For instance, marrying 16,000 wives at once. The conditioned soul is very proud of becoming the husband of even one wife, but the Lord laughs at this. The intelligent man can know who is the real husband. Actually, the Lord is the husband of all the women in his creation, but the conditioned soul under the control of Lord feels proud to be the husband of one or two wives. So all these qualifications as different types of pati mentioned in this verse are meant for Lord Krishna. And Sukadev Goswami has therefore especially mentioned the pati and gati of the Yadu dynasty. The members of Yadu dynasty knew that Lord Sri Krishna is everything, and all of them intended to return to Lord Krishna after he had finished his transcendental pastimes on the earth. The Yadu dynasty was annihilated by the will of the Lord because its members had to return home with the Lord. The annihilation of Yadu dynasty was a material show created by the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, the Lord and the members of Yadu dynasty are all eternal associates. The Lord is therefore the guide of all devotees, and as such, Sukadev Goswami offered him due respects with love-laden feelings. Jai. So we will finish here, and it's very, very nectarian set of slokas these are, and devotional ecstasies of Sukadev Goswami. So very amazing. This whole this one is giving a lot of impetus and a lot of enthusiasm for us to practice Krishna consciousness. So let's stop here, and we will meet again tomorrow. Right? Vantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.